Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Rida Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Rida Shahram Server, and under the supervision of Professor Dr. Saira Afzal, I will be presenting today training needs assessment. My quote of the day is, if you learn something new every day, you can teach something new every day. Learning outline. Definition of training needs assessment. Why training needed for an employee. Program overview. Macro versus micro benefits of a training needs assessment. Key steps in conducting an effective training needs assessment and methods of TNA. Components of TNA, which include organizational, individual, and job analysis, from results to implementation, recent advances. Learning outcome. At the end of the presentation, participants will have a broad overview of the definition of training needs assessment, its components, both micro and macro, the importance of training and the benefits it entails. They will also gain insight of the main steps involved in conducting an effective training needs assessment. Training. Training is the act of increasing knowledge and skills of an employee for doing a particular job. Training involves development of skills that are usually used to perform a specific job. It should bring positive changes in knowledge, skills, and attitude. Why training is needed for an employee? Training is important for an employee to have the following benefits. Number one, quick learning. Two, higher productivity, standardization of procedures, supervision, economical operation, preparation of future managers, as well as better management. Training needs assessment. It is defined as the determining gap between what an employee must be able to do and what he or she is currently doing. A training needs assessment therefore identifies the gap between what the job expects an employee to do and, on the other hand, what the employee is actually doing on the other hand. So basically, how the job ought to be properly done and the gap and how the employee is doing or can do for the job now. So actual skills equals to the desired skills. What is training needs assessment? Once again, it is the method of determining if a training need exists, and if it does, what training is required to fill that gap. It seeks to identify accurately the levels of the present situation in the target surveys, interview, observation, secondary data, and/or workshops. The gap between the present status and the desired status may indicate problems that in turn can be translated into a training need. So this is basically a diagram which shows a bunch of people on a ladder, and it basically shows where they are now and where they need to be, which is now, tomorrow, or in the future. This includes the skills, the knowledge, the behavior they have, and then the performance gap that needs to be bridged in order to get them there. Macro versus micro. Macro is aligned with strategic goals, which includes on three levels, which are organizational, occupational, as well as individual, and micro, which are initiated by performance, problems, or change. Assessment is done to clarify the problem, determine if the training is needed, if determining training is needed for as a solution, analyze the performance and the characteristics of the trainees. So the instructional design process basically includes this flowchart, which is first you analyze, design, develop, implement, and then evaluate, and then it goes back. Why do a training needs assessment? A TNA provides information on the training and skills development requirements of all members of your network. It is one of the key steps in preparing a training plan and provides you with information on which to base your network's training plan, and enables you to identify the gap between the current and required levels of knowledge, skills, and attitude, identify what the general content of training should be, form the foundation of a training plan, provide a baseline for the evaluation of a training plan, ensure that appropriate and relevant training is delivered, and maximize use of scarce resources. Must analyze as much information as possible about the following, which include organization and its goals and objectives, jobs and related tasks that need to be learned, competencies and skills that are needed to perform the job, individuals who are to be trained, and benefits of a training needs assessment include: first, it identifies performance goals and the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed by a company's workforce to achieve those goals. It identifies gaps in training provision in sectors and/or regions, helps direct resources to areas of great priority, addresses resources needed to fulfill the organizational mission, improve productivity, and provide quality products as well as services. What are the key steps in conducting an effective training needs assessment. Number one, prepare thoroughly, follow a structured methodology, link training needs with objectives of the network, gain commitment from members to participate in the TNA, communicate with all those involved, ensure you have the skills to conduct the TNA, which are analytical as well as communication. Collate the results gathered, prioritize the identified training needs, and group them into training categories. Why do we need training? Firstly, to have the knowledge and right skills to be able to work effectively and competently. Training may be needed when there is a gap between the desired performance and the current performance, and the reason for that gap is lack of skill or knowledge. Training may only be able to resolve part of the problem. Thus, we need to analyze the problem and find out whether training will be able to resolve it or not. If training is necessary, we also need to define the objectives of training and how it will help the members become more effective. So in a flowchart, it's basically going to go like number one, identification of the organization's objectives, then identification of skills needed to meet those objectives, evaluation of existing skill levels at organization, team, and employee levels, identify courses available to meet gap in skill levels, and then develop training programs to meet skill levels. So methods of TNA include observation, then there's questionnaires, interviews, surveys, as well as focus groups. It includes the following steps. Step number one, identify problems and needs. The first step in TNA is to identify problems and needs. Before TNA is conducted, it should be probed whether training is needed. In the public sector, it is important to identify organizational context in such aspects such as policy, goal, roles, and responsibilities. Realizing the policy direction of the organization, performance analysis known as the gap analysis is conducted to look at an official's current working performance and knowledge and identify whether an official is performing as desired based on the given roles as well as responsibilities. Step two, determine design of needs analysis. The second step in TNA is to determine the following. The target group needs to be trained, interviews, survey methods, the survey plan, including schedule to be conducted, TNA and persons in charge of the TNA. Those items become the basis for a training course designer to either create a new training course, identify an existing one that can fulfill the need, or obtain one externally. Then target groups. The survey must clearly define the target group of the training, that is the target population. Although no strict rules for defining exist, the target population must be defined in line with the objectives of the TNA. The survey should produce the following elements in its report: training subjects, importance of training, its time requirements, current target groups, potential target groups, frequency of training, and the required outputs of training. Interview. Once a target group for training, that is target population, is identified, interviewees for the survey are selected. It is likely that all officials of the target group cannot be interviewed due to time constraint. Thus, sampling of the target population should also be used. Survey methods. Data collection and analysis are essential parts of needs assessment. TNA is optimized when a combination of data collection methods is used to analyze quantitative and qualitative data. Regardless of which methods are used to collect and analyze this data, it is important to consider the reliability, validity, and trustworthiness of that data. Step 3, collection of data. There are various methods to collect information for your TNA which can be utilized either individually or in combination with each other. It is advisable to use more than one method to get a comprehensive overview of the needs of the sector region. Data gathering is the cornerstone of any needs assessment project, and it can be time consuming. Typical methods of collecting information for your TNA include surveys, focus groups, individual interviews, reviewing existing documents, discussions with steering groups, discussions with relative bodies, which includes trade association, chambers of commerce, universities, unemployment services, etc. Discussions with relative stakeholders. These include meeting with steering groups, discussion with relevant bodies, discussion with stakeholders operating in the employment services. Then we come to step 4, which is basically analyze that data. Assuming that the needs assessment identifies more than one training need, the training manager works with management, prioritize the training based on the urgency of the need, timeliness, the extent of the need, how many employees need to be trained, and the resources available. Based on this information, the training manager can develop the instructional objectives for the training and development program. All three levels of needs analysis are interrelated, and the data collection from each level is critical to a thorough and effective needs assessment. Organizational analysis can be obtained from a variety of sources. Organizational goals and objectives, mission statements, as well as strategic plans, staffing, inventory, succession planning, long and short staffing needs, skills inventory, both currently available in short and long-term needs, organizational climate indices, which include labor management relationships, grievances, turnover rates, absenteeism, suggestions, productivity, accidents, short-term sicknesses, observation of employee behavior, attitude surveys, and customer complaints. Steps in task analysis. Break job into major functions, break functions into major tasks, break tasks into steps, and identifying the training outcome. The results. The results of the needs assessment allows the training manager to set the training objectives by answering two very basic questions. Who, if anyone, needs training and what training is needed? Sometimes training is not the solution, as well as some performance gaps can be reduced or eliminated through other management solutions, such as communicating expectations, providing a supporting work environment, arranging, and then comes to the consequences, which basically involve removing obstacles and checking if that job is fit or not. Then the training is ready for implementation, and how you go about that is by scheduling classes, schedule classes, facilities, and participants, schedule instructors to teach, prepare materials, and deliver them to the scheduled locations, and then conduct that training. Components of training needs assessment basically include training needs assessment generally involves three chunks, so as to summarize again. These include the organizational analysis, job analysis, as well as individual analysis. Coming to organizational analysis, this includes strategic directions, training resources, support of managers, peers, and employees of training activity. Then job analysis, which includes performance, job feedback, individual analysis, which includes work activity, task analysis, knowledge, skills, and attitude required to perform the job. And then you can see these are interrelated with one another. Coming to recent advances. Training needs analysis and evaluation framework. Training needs analysis is the first step in the training and educational strategy of an organization, and it's crucial to meet the continuing professional development needs of the healthcare workforce and service. TNA must be carefully planned, conducted, and have clear outcomes to ensure that the training interventions are implemented effectively and they lead to meaningful changes in service delivery. However, there is depth of literature on approaches to critique sorry, one second. TNA must be carefully planned, conducted, and have clear outcomes to ensure that the training interventions are implemented effectively and that they lead to meaningful changes in service delivery. However, there is a depth of literature on approaches to critique TNA. This article describes a framework developed specifically to evaluate the effectiveness of it. The framework combines approaches that have been used to evaluate conventional research studies and audit. Top training needs, coming to another article, top training needs of the governmental public health workforce. Context. Workforce development in governmental public health has historically focused on discipline-specific skills. However, the field of public health has evolved. Cross-cutting skills have become critical. The 2017 Fielding of the Public Health Workforce Interests and Needs Survey provides a national benchmark for gaps in cross-cutting skills in state and local health departments. Objective. The purpose of this article is to identify top areas of training needs of the governmental public health workforce using data from the PH Wins 2017. Coming to MCQs. Question number 1. Training needs assessment is defined as the determining gap between what an employee must be able to do and what he or she is currently doing. As a result, it is usually related to A, organizational performance, B, individual performance, C, both organizational and individual performance, D, skill building, or E, think tanks.
A.
The answer is C, both organizational and individual performance. Question number 2. The instructional design process of training needs assessment includes all of the following steps except for analyze, B, evaluate, C, design, D, implement, or E, strategize.
E.
Yes, E is the answer. Question 3. The first step in TNA is to identify problems and needs. Before TNA is conducted, it should be probed whether training is needed. In the public sector, what is important to identify? A. Organizational contexts and aspects such as policy, goals, roles, and responsibilities. B. Audit exceptions, reward systems. C. Planning systems. D. Delegation and control systems. E. Employee attitudes and satisfaction.
A.
Yes, the answer is A. 4. Assuming that the needs assessment identifies more than one training need, the training manager working with management prioritizes the training based on the urgency of that need, the extent of the need, and the resources available. Based on this information, the training manager can develop a PowerPoint presentation of the needs, B, instructional objectives for the training and developmental program, C, assess how many employees are needed on that project, D, a workup of task analysis, E, a legal aspect of that program.
B.
Yes, the answer is B. Question 5. Training needs analysis can take place at organizational, task, and personal levels. At the organizational level, it broadly examines what are the organization's strategic plans and where is training and development needed to fit into that planning. Organizational training needs generally occur when A, government provides additional funding, B, information technology systems need upgrading, C, there is some kind of barrier hindering the achievement of organizational aims and objectives, which is best removed by training. D, other competing organizations are conducting extensive training programs, or E, when there are less funds to hire additional staff.
C.
The answer is 5A. Question 6. The first phase of a training program is a training needs analysis. What does this aim to do? Identify the training objectives. B, produce selection criteria. C, establish the training resources required. D, allocate tasks to all working employees. Or E, set up a survey.
A.
Yes, the answer is 6A. Question 7. In assessing training needs, an examination of production efficiency, labor costs, turnover, and accidents would be part of which training needs analysis? A, personnel, B, tasks, C, operations, D, organizational, or E, infrastructure.
Organizational. D.
Yes. Question 8. A verification of deficiencies in performance to determine training or job rotation is called A, need analysis competency model, B, competency model, C, task analysis, D, performance analysis, or E, skill check.
D.
Yes. Question 9. In which type of analysis are corporate goals and plans compared with existing manpower inventory to determine the training needs? A, organizational analysis, B, operation analysis, C, individual analysis, D, micro level analysis, or E, inferential analysis.
C.
No, A. Question 10. Training needs assessment is a method of determining if a training need exists, and if it does, what training is required to fill that gap. Training needs analysis takes place during which phase of the training process? A, deciding what to teach. B, deciding how to maximize participant learning. C, choosing appropriate instructional methods. D, determining whether training programs are effective. Or E, allocating funds to relevant departments.
D.
Yes, the answer is D. This is the key. These are my references. Thank you.